What up, world? Established Rich coming right back at you. Ladies and gentlemen, this one right here is one of the darkest stories to come out of Atlanta music culture in a long time. And I'm not talking about charts. I'm not talking about club anthems. I'm not talking about no music. I'm talking about a verdict that just ended a man's life and shattered the lives of others in the process. John Michael Hakeem Gibson, better known to the world as Cash Out. The man who once had you singing "I'm cashing out" in every club will now be spending the rest of his life in prison. Let me say that again for the people in the back. Life in prison. And then an additional 70 years. A jury found him guilty on multiple charges, including racketeering and coercion of women into illegal activity. These are not charges to gloss over. These are not rumors. This is not internet drama. This is a verdict handed down by a Fulton County jury after a month-long trial that shook the city of Atlanta to its core. And to make matters even more unimaginable, his own mother, Linda Smith, known as Mama Cash Out, was convicted right alongside her son. She was sentenced to 30 years in prison. Another man, Tyrone Taylor, was also convicted. Life plus 70 years.
I cover a lot of court, and typically if a defendant talks during sentencing, they'll show remorse or ask for leniency. Cash Out didn't do any of that and instead claimed the victims who came forward were bullied into doing so. On Monday, John Michael Gibson took the mic one final time. Not as the well-known rapper Cash Out, but rather as a convicted felon fighting for a chance at freedom.
You know you can be falsely accused of things. Jesus was falsely accused. One day, the truth will come out that these things never happened.
A jury found him guilty on roughly a dozen charges, including RICO, rape, and sex trafficking.
It's never behind me. It's always with me, even in my sleep and my subconscious. It changes you. It shakes you to the core.
Several victims and their families shared stories of the trauma they still endure.
Using his one-hit wonder status to steal their person. He and his mom literally stole the souls of all the women that they victimized.
The judge said the state proved those victims' stories beyond a reasonable doubt and showed no leniency as she sentenced Cash Out, his mother, and his cousin to decades in prison.
Court heard and viewed evidence demonstrating the very worst of human behavior toward other human beings.
His cousin expressed disappointment over the outcome.
And I didn't do.
Mama Cash Out said she'd accept whatever fate she deserved.
When the verdict came in, I wasn't angry at all. Not at all. I was so sorry for the victims, and I pray for them and will continue to pray.
This wasn't a case about a fallen rapper. This was an organized enterprise. According to the prosecution, this was a system of deception. A racket run through a music label, Pyrex Music Group, used as a front to recruit, to lure, and to control. The testimony from the survivors was heartbreaking. You had young women standing in front of the courtroom describing PTSD, anxiety. One said she still fears for her life. Another one said her soul was stolen. These are not exaggerations. These are not tabloid headlines. These are the words of people whose lives were broken. And then came Cash Out statement. Standing before the judge, he did not show remorse. He did not apologize to the victims. He claimed innocence and said he was being targeted. He even compared himself to Jesus. Jesus. This man stood in front of a courtroom facing life and said the jury got it wrong. He said the victims were bullied into testifying. And then he pulled the holy card, calling himself a falsely accused figure. My brother, nah. The judge was clear. The evidence showed what she called the very worst of human behavior, and she was not going to hold back. Her sentence was not just about the law. It was a message. A message that if you use power, status, and music to do harm, you will pay. And pay Cash Out did. But here's the part that cuts even deeper. This man had it. He had a career, hits on the radio, a name in the industry, a future. And instead of using that platform to build, to inspire, to win, he allegedly built a system of exploitation. Through DMs, social media, fake promises of stardom. Women were lured in and then, according to prosecutors, controlled, stripped of dignity, and turned into a product. And I gotta say this with a heavy heart. When you come from the hip-hop community, when you're a black man with opportunity, you gotta do better. Not just for yourself, but for the people who look up to you, for the women who supported you, for the families who bought your music, for the city you claim. Atlanta ain't deserve this. The culture ain't deserve this. Hip-hop ain't deserve this. And these women, they deserve protection. They deserve respect. They deserve the chance to live their lives without being caught up in this kind of darkness. Now look, I know some people gonna say, what if he telling the truth? What if he was set up? But this wasn't a snap decision. This was a jury. This was evidence. This was weeks of testimony. And the verdict was unanimous. Cash Out, guilty. Mama Cash Out, guilty. Tyrone Taylor, guilty. And now 3 lives lost to the prison system and countless more shattered. Look, I'm not here to celebrate somebody's downfall, but I am here to stand for accountability. And if we truly care about our communities, if we truly want to fix what's broken, we have to acknowledge the pain. We have to listen to the survivors. And we got to stand on justice, period. This ain't about music. This ain't about streams. This is about human dignity and the price you pay when you violate it. I'm praying for the victims. I'm praying for the families. And I'm praying for a future where this type of story never has to be told again. But hey, that's just my opinion. What's yours? Like, comment, subscribe, establish Rich. I'll be back with another one. Peace.